What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode interview where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves and for their families, as well as have an impact on other lives while they're here. So today, you guys, we got some special guests here live in the studio, some good friends of mine that I've known for a lot of years, uber successful entrepreneurs, uber successful real estate team leaders. They're actually with my brokerage, same brokerage that I'm with, and they're always beating my ass. So these guys are the real deal. So really stoked and honored to have George and Jennifer Lawton in the studio. Welcome to the show, my friends.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for having us.
What's up?
Yeah,
dude?
no, this is awesome, dude. Been wanting to line this for a while, man, but life gets busy, and I know you guys are just killing it, dude.
Well, yeah, and to clarify, I think we bounce back and forth on who's in front here.
Yeah,
so
yeah. It's between,
I'm always chasing you. I'm like, oh damn, next month I got him.
It's between there's three of us, right? Because Jason Mitchell who we had on the show, and and that fucker keeps popping these $5 million deals. It's like, dude, that's hard. That's hard to catch, man. I'm selling 200.
I do 242 at a time, buddy.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah. So, but before we get into what you guys are doing today, because I know that you guys, and not a lot of agents have been able to do this. I mean, you were massive REO agents. I think at the time, like number 2 or 4 in the world, or the
I think at one point we were number 2 Wall Street Journal, 2009, and then Remax were in the top I think 1 at one point with Remax.
Yeah, just gnarly stuff, right? Yeah. And then with that too, what was cool or what's been awesome to watch is a lot of agents that were like badasses in REO, they couldn't transition, right? And you guys have went from being, top dogs in the REO world to now being top dogs in the traditional world, and been able to adapt and shift and change in all the marketplaces. And a lot of people can't do that. So, we'll get deep into all of that stuff. But I'm always curious in our guest journeys of like, how the hell did you get started in entrepreneurship in the first place, and what led you guys to real estate?
Oh, geez. Both Jen and I were bartenders. That's how we met. She came in, she ordered a round of Crown and Red Bulls and tipped me $40. So it's all history, as they say, from there. And I think maybe that's there's a natural course for a lot of bartenders, is to say, I'm going to give them a shot at real estate. And I don't know, just
sales. I mean,
sales.
Because you're there as a bartender selling yourself every night and pitching to people every night. So I mean, it seemed.
Yeah, it was something to do, right? College wasn't working out too well for me, and then it never ended up graduating. And I didn't want to work for somebody else, Yeah. I got involved in investment real estate and loved it, man, like that. But then the market tanked, and we had to adapt in that sense. So what drove us to it was, I think ultimately it was just that I've always been entrepreneurial. From the beginning, from being a kid, never really wanted to work for somebody else. Yes.
Actually, one of his very close friends, we hadn't seen him in years, and the first thing he said to me after revisiting this friend, he said, "Let me ask you this: does George still have some kind of entrepreneurial self-help book by his nightstand?" Because that he always had one by his nightstand, growing up with him, and I said, "Yep." I said, there's actually probably 2 or 3 sitting there. Yeah. So he's always had that.
That's it. And I aged myself a little bit. I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, I always have a book on tape in the car, right? Because that's where we started. That's when I started listening to like the cassettes, I wouldn't go on a road trip without having a book on tape. And it was usually something like, to better yourself, self-improvement, sales oriented, Zig Ziglar or something
Brian
like that.
Tracy,
yeah, exactly.
Jim
That kind
Rohn
of
content.
stuff. Yeah. So, so I was always kind of in that mindset. So that's kind of what got us in the real estate world, I think.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in other spaces outside of real estate too, right? I mean, at one point, weren't you in the restaurant space too?
Yeah, we're still partners in a restaurant. The margins aren't as good.
Yeah.
don't go in that space. It's a very sexy place to be, but it's not as profitable.
Yeah.
Quick service restaurants, you need to own 10 of those things to be profitable. So and it's just not the passion. Our money's better spent in the acquisitions division of real estate, and then traditional real estate. So that's really where we focus our money now. So doing some other little projects here and there, joint ventures and stuff, but nothing. Our focus is real estate and acquisition real estate.
Yeah. So at that time, I mean, it sounds like you guys were together. Were you married at that time?
Yeah, we've been married 11 years, and I think all of our ventures. I mean, we were bartenders, so I didn't have many ventures going on then.
Yeah. Right.
He told me, he said, "This is what we're doing. We're signing," and he signed me up for real estate school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
What were you just like, all right, I'm in, or were you kind of like,
No,
did you have resistance?
Well, actually, yes, because it took me probably. He took his test, and for some reason, I just. I don't know, scared, I guess, to make that jump. And it took me probably another 6 months to actually take my test before or after he did.
Yeah. Well, because that was, you said right then when the market was crashing too, right?
Yes.
So that had to have been
Yeah.
Well, you were what? You were licensed 2007?
It was, yeah. It was about
But it was
a good
shifting
5-6
then, man.
months.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, because I got a license in 2006, and I guess not being in that space, we saw things shifting a little quicker, or weren't hanging on to what had happened in the past few years. Like, we're like, oh, okay, we need to adjust quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when went into REO like early 2007.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because it's the same thing. I got licensed 2005 and stumbled across my first short sale.
Yeah.
Right? A guy, like, I thought we were closing escrow, and then title company calls me like, "What are you going to do about this line of credit?"
Like, what's that?
I was my exact question. Like, what the hell's a line of credit? Right? And then because I didn't know, I was like, 24 at the time, and I had to go back to my sellers, and they had no idea it was attached to the property either.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had to kind of figure it out, and then, but yeah, I think a lot of people think, oh, the market crash was 2009, 2010, but here in Arizona, we were feeling it in 2007 for sure, or earlier.
When we were doing investment real estate, and a lot of the lenders, the portfolio products that we were using, those option arms, those crappy loans, a lot of those guys were shutting their doors. I mean, it was February 2007, and I said, man, I told Jen, I'm like, man, I think we need to be positioned in default. I didn't know what REO was or anything along those lines, but I'm like, how do you list the foreclosure house that just went up and down our street? Like, how do you get a corporate client? How do you get one of those, institutional clients? And the way we looked at it, I was like, every segment of every industry has a magazine, and they have a convention. So I was like, well, let's figure out what that convention is, and let's figure out who else is doing this, and chat with them too. And that's what we did, and went to REOMAC when there was like 500 other agents there. It was pretty, it was crazy times. So.
Yeah. So then, all right. So you guys jump in this space. It may seem quickly to get an REO, but it's not like, oh, I just decided I'm going to get an REO, and all of a sudden I land an account, right? I mean, there's a lot of hustle involved, and so you guys get in this space, you realize, hey man, we need to get into REO or more of the distressed property. You've seen the writing on the wall. How did you do it?
So one was going to REOMAC, and it was an interesting time. Like, that's when those default conferences, asset managers were actually showing up
before they had to
hide,
by police officers.
Yeah, exactly. So when at the end of the REOMAC convention, what they would do is they would sit you in a circle. They'd have a little stand that said the name of the bank, like Wells Fargo or whatever it was, and we would sit in a circle with agents and the asset manager, and they'd sit down. Who wants to join our network? This is where you go. This is the platform. This is the code you plug in, and so you can get approved through us, because anybody that's at this convention, like, we know you're dedicated to it. So, and that too, at that time, I think we were with, I think I started out with Realty Experts instead of REMAX. And when I went down to the drop-down menu on the platform for Wells Fargo, it only had like Coldwell Banker, REMAX, Keller Williams, this, that. I'm like, shit, okay, well, I guess we got to go one of these, right? So that's what we did. That was ultimately what the decision was, to go to REMAX too. So yeah, crazy times, man.
So then, okay, so you make the transition to REMAX. You guys are intentional about getting into REO. How do you go though from being in that space to, because dude, and again, I mean, it's been a while, but dude, I mean, if I remember, you guys were popping like 900 deals a year, something insane.
Yeah, not quite that, but it was. I mean, I think our big year 2009 when we hit number 2 on Wall Street Journal. It was what?
Listings at the time.
It was, yeah, but we closed like 600 or 700 that year for 98 million, which, I forget what's the average price point, but it was a lot more transactions to get to that 98 million. So but yeah, it was that we I was actually on a flight to Denver once I joined REMAX, and that's when I met Scott Gibson, right? I actually met his wife, Catherine, and she was talking about these REO platforms, which Equator, which was Rio Trans at the time. She's like, yeah, we just got our first account. I'm like, okay, you're the first people we're meeting with. And then that was on a Thursday. We had dinner on a Saturday, and that's when Scott and I joined forces. And then they had Wells Fargo already, and then we quickly picked up Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, when we just started attacking every single one we could, flying out, seeing them, knocking on doors, having coffee with asset managers, whatever we could do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And back in those days, dude, and I don't think a lot of people that are in REO or got in kind of late, they didn't realize this, but I mean, in those days, I mean, it was gnarly, right? Because you were having to, I mean, I remember, and we didn't have near the business you guys did, but at one point, I think we were like $250,000 out in just receivables. Right? Like, I remember having to do credit card advances just to pay my own mortgage. Like, I literally had that thought going in my mind all the time of, I'm the foreclosure agent who's going to get my house foreclosed on because I'm funding the banks. Right? Like, I remember Brandon Howe, who's a friend of both of ours, he called me up to go snowboarding one week. I'm like, bro, I can't. Like, I have no money. He's like, oh, yeah, I forgot you sell 500 homes a year and you're broke. I'm like, but the reality is, dude, it was all gone.
How crazy were we, man? Like, because we had at least $250,000 out, too, at one point in time between Scott and myself. And we're basically loaning money to these banks that could close their doors at any point in time with no guarantee of repayment, right? So to talk about the risk in that, but we were in the same boat. There were months that we couldn't make our mortgage payment. And I just kept telling her, I'm like, it's going to pop. Trust me. Look at all these. I'm like, and if it keeps coming in the front door, I'm okay with that. So lines of credit, contractors that would wait to get paid. That was the big thing. Like once you found somebody like, hey, I paid you a lot of money, but now you need to wait till I get reimbursed. And that was kind of the game changers when we could actually build those good relationships and you understood each other. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And just to prep, people that watch or listen to this podcast, because I mean, the reality is we're in the second largest bull market of recorded history or whatever. Like, it's going to happen again. We don't know what to extent, but it always repeats itself. So, what was it like? Because I remember hearing stories from you guys of like taking shifts and like it was literally a 24/7 shop, 7 days a week.
Yeah, we literally, I'd be there until probably midnight, 1 a.m. doing BPOs for these asset managers. And I think that was why a lot of these asset managers did stick with us, because we did get shit done. We got it done in a timely manner, and we did it the way they wanted to do it, wanted to see us doing it. But I'd be leaving there at like midnight, 1 a.m., and at the time we were renting out a house to work at.
For an office space, yeah.
And there'd be Scott rolling in, hey, next shift. To start his work day.
And then it got too much to commute home, so we just threw a futon in the office. Like literally.
We'd spend the night
too much
because it was in Central Phoenix, so we'd spend the night down there plenty of times.
And that was we strategically positioned our office in Central Phoenix because the way REO assigned assets was based on a radius to your office. Well, if we had something in Northwest Valley, we couldn't cover the whole area. So we're like, we need a Central Phoenix office, central address, and then that way we got more listings that way. So.
Yeah, and the reason that I love asking those questions and hearing those stories is because so many people will see you guys at the top and be like, oh, it must be so good. I mean, they only see that. They don't see like all the damn blood, sweat, tears, all those hard times that it takes to get there, right?
Oh, yeah. We worked our
6
asses
years
off.
Yeah, it was 6-7 years, no vacations. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
I mean, we get the weekend vacation, but we never took a week away. And
that was the difference because we didn't work with buyers then. So we were off Saturday and Sunday, and that was it. But Monday through Friday, you can guarantee we were working, at least from 8 a.m. till sometimes midnight.
Yeah. Yeah. And when she says Saturday and Sundays off, the asset managers didn't call us.
Yes.
But
yes.
You still got shit to do. You still got things to do, right?
Yep. Love it. All right, dude. So then, that market. It wasn't like it just stopped. I mean, there was a transition where it was slowing down and things started appreciating. But how do you transition from that back into the traditional market? Because the reality is these markets repeat themselves everywhere. And agents need to know how to, really, it's like a boxing match, right? Yeah. Like you got to know how to roll the punches. And like, how did you guys successfully transition so well from that? You're doing $100 million in REO, now you're doing over $100 million in traditional. And again, you just don't see a lot of agents be able to do that.
It started with really working our sphere, putting together our sphere. We were back working out of a house again. It was George, myself, and an assistant. Yeah. And, we initially started just our sphere because we had such a huge sphere between both of us being bartenders for so many years. We knew a lot of people. We knew a lot of people from doing some of the REOs. And then from there, finding the systems.
Yeah, I think it was systems. But it was, when we we had to dissolve the REO team because that looks a lot different than a traditional team. It was very admin based, you know. You have people that could crank it out for you, but weren't necessarily the high I's and S's, you know, D's or high D, high I that you like to see in the real estate sales world. These were people that were processing stuff. So it was a conscious decision to say, okay, we actually have to dissolve this team. Let's go back where we want to be, which was Northwest Valley. And where do you start, right? You start obviously with any way an agent should start. Now, mind you, we had hundreds and hundreds of transactions that we'd done that we didn't keep good records or, you know, anything. Yeah. So it's not like I came and said, well, now we got this big, huge database of, they weren't our buyers. We kept some of it, but I still didn't exactly know how to work it. But it was creating the systems, understanding marketing, understanding prospecting, and then understanding leverage too. You know, knowing that we can't do it on our own if we want to build it back up to, you know, $100 million business where you can actually maybe take a weekend off or a week or 2 weeks off, you know, hiring the right people, bringing the right people on, and then developing them. So first we had to develop, you know, so one of the first things I looked for was the biggest and best CRM, you know, or what was the best product out there right now for contact management, and what are the best lead sources out there, and then going from that to how do you prospect, what's an ISA, you know. So just learning all those things. So it started on it like that while doing our own production, and then the 4 a.m. to the 8 a.m. time is the business time for me. Like, I don't work out in the mornings, I work out in the evenings, but my brain's just going at like 4:30, you know, to 8:30, and then I go start the regular whirlwind of the day. And that's where like developing that business piece of it, you know, understanding what PPC is, understanding what, you know, the crap we didn't do in REO, right? Understanding Facebook ads, understanding, you know, Zillow, cost per lead, you know, all that stuff we had to learn. So I'm watching videos, dude, you know. Yeah,
because you guys, I mean, really started your career in the distressed market. So it wasn't like you built a traditional market, so you kind of knew how to rebuild it.
Dude, I hadn't been on a handful of listing appointments before 2013, you know, so.
Which is probably kind of a blessing, right? Because you didn't have like those old habits to try to rely on. You had to, you know, you're forced to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. I think it was knowing that we enjoyed real estate, but it was just kind of trying to learn as much as I can and as quickly as we can and bring on the right people again.
Yeah. I'll say one of the best things about REO for me was teaching me systems.
Yeah.
Like before REO, dude, I really didn't have systems in place. And you learn quickly systems, you learn quickly the power of quality control and all of that stuff, which I was shitty at before. And so you guys are making this transition, you go through those changes, you're identifying the things that you just talked about. Then from there, where do you start? Like what did you attack? I mean, did you guys, hey, this is the area that won't work? I mean, are you starting with geographical farming, circle prospecting, online leads? Like how did you get that start?
I wanted to start the lead generation machine, you know. I wanted so many leads coming in, obviously, that we couldn't handle them. And now we had to bring somebody else on. And then we brought that person on, too many leads for them. So I wanted to just create that lead gen machine. And we did. You know, we were consistently producing 800, 900 leads a month. I don't know what our budget was at that time. So now I've got to find the people to work those leads, because I'm not going to turn this machine off that we built. I'm going to add people to it to help, you know, make a return off of this.
Yeah.
So that's what, you know, traditionally I think you're supposed to lead with revenue, but I'm like, let's create this machine. I got to understand it. Let's start cranking out some leads. Let me understand how this lead gen works. And now let's add some people that can work these leads, and let's develop them. And the coolest thing about all of it is, you know, changing people's lives. Like the people we brought on with us 2013, you know, 2 bartenders, blackjack dealer, a 22-year-old girl, all making over $350,000 a year. I mean, like, things that they never thought would be even achievable or could happen, and we've done it together. Like, I'm just as grateful for them as they are for us. Like, it's such a family, you know, oriented team. But those ones that started with us, those OGs, man, like they're all in. So it's pretty cool. That's the fun part.
Yep. No, it is. It is. If you really break it down, it's insane to think of how many people real estate actually impacts. Yep. You know, if you look at just a transaction, you know, I don't know how many parties are impacted, but when we look at like utility companies, title, the lender, you know, furniture companies, I mean, it's 20, 30, I mean, I could go into hundreds of people's lives that one transaction affects. Then once you start growing a team and that keeps multiplying, I think a lot of people don't operate from the lens of how much of a blessing it is to go out there and impact so many damn lives.
Yeah.
So then I know our listeners will kill me if I don't ask, how the hell do you generate 1,000 leads a month?
You spend a lot of money. I don't have, I outsource a lot of stuff. So I learn it just to the point where I'm dangerous enough to hold somebody accountable. And then I pass it off to somebody else, either internal or external. And for us, PPC management, still PPC is our biggest, lead source next to Facebook now. But that's also our biggest expense. So, going out there, getting those systems automated where it automatically imports into your CRM, which we use Boomtown. Everything flows right into it. I was just getting that budget put together, spending the money, and then just start cranking it, getting somebody to handle our social media management after I understood how to put a Facebook ad together, doing video content and just cranking it, Craigslist posts. I mean, Craigslist was the beast back in the day, right? Like we had freaking auto bots, posting everything to Craigslist. Everybody's listening in the brokerage to Craigslist, and you would get 300 leads a month off of that. Well, that shut down. So now you just got to figure out what's the next lead source. So
is that still kind of the path today? Is it still mostly online lead gen? Are you guys doing, circle prospecting, open houses, or any kind of direct mail today?
All that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, I think you've got to have a balance, right?
Yeah.
But internet lead gen's my specialty. There's other people on the team, but we do the mega open houses, videos, a lot of Facebook, them just boosting their own posts, teaching agents how to maximize off of these things. Circle prospecting, we have ISAs, we have an ISA team that does, outbound prospecting, expireds, canceled, FSBOs, to NOD defaults, all kinds of different things. So it's a lot of different lead sources. I mean, if you look at it, we'll probably have 50 or 60 different lead sources on there, not just internet based.
Yep. That's insane. That's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So then in the beginning, so you have, you mentioned, or you said lead with revenue, which is, kind of the way most realtors are taught, which, you were in a position probably differently than most because you had some reserves from the REO, so you could go the other way. So somebody is in a position to kind of go the route that you guys did. How long did it take you investing all that money before you started getting a decent ROI on it?
It depends on lead source.
Yeah.
So Facebook for us was a long incubation period. You got to stay committed to it. The reason for that, you probably have a better idea on this, but my thought process is that these people, they're scrolling through a news feed. You put captivating content on there. You put a cool picture of a kitchen. They click on it. You drive them back to their website. They register for your website. They weren't even thinking about purchasing them.
Straight con.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I just tricked you. Now, the other guys, sit in front of his computer, Google search engine, punching in Peoria real estate for sale, and our website comes up. Obviously, they're a little more motivated and farther down the sales pipeline than this person on Facebook. So PPC, man, like that was long sales cycle, but it took us really to see the return on it. 8 months on the PPC stuff, on the internet lead gen. Zillow is a little more immediate, but they're also not forced registration. Right. These people they're actively reaching out to you and saying, I want to look at this house, where the forced registration in Facebook has a little bit longer of a incubation.
Yeah, it seems like Zillow has replaced the sign call.
100%. Sign calls crap, man.
Yeah.
Like,
you
they're
don't get it anymore?
Antiquated. No, so
they're all looking for rentals.
It's antiquated and uneducated buyers, sellers, renters. And that's the funny thing. Like, sign calls used to be gold in my office.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? People loved them. Right? What do we? We had
now you can't even get agents to
show up. They don't want to.
Like,
they don't want to do it, man. They don't. Like my core team of 8. So we have different divisions within our team. We have I refer to as like the big leagues and the minors, and the guys that have been with me for years that are killing it used to want to take all the sign calls. Now they're where their business at, and the quality of the sign calls, they're like, nah, you can give them to this guy or whatever, But we used to average, hundreds of sign calls a month, and now I think it's one a day. a day off of 60 plus listings.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you hit the nail on the head of that long-term nurture, and people just give up too damn soon. It's like your average internet lead, whether it's Google pay-per-click or Facebook, is 6.7 months out today from even wanting to speak to a realtor.
Yeah.
You know, right? But if you have that nurture process set up right, you get it captured so early in the process compared to like an open house where they're in 6 other people's databases already, and they've already done that research. So love that, man. So all right, so in the beginning, you know, you guys are, I'm sure, working on buyers and sellers, you're adding buyers agents, you're getting all these leads. I mean, how did you guys transition yourselves as you're adding people? I mean, did you get to a point like right out of the gate, was your main focus for the two of you just listings, or you know, like I mean, how did you transition yourself out as you kept adding people?
Yeah, I mean, Jen stayed in production quite a bit. She still helps our sphere. Never wanted to get away from that. And I still dive back in every now and then, and I'll do a deal just because it keeps me relevant in a sense. Like, you know, understanding the contract, especially we had some huge contract changes here in Arizona just recently. So it's just kind of trying to stay relevant with it. But I never liked driving people around in my car, dude. Like, I never wanted to. I don't know anybody that really loves it, but the idea was to step out at some point and get out of production, you know. And then with Jen, it was get it down to the people that we want to work with, you know, not that we have to work with everybody. Anything else?
I will work with others, but it's our sphere is what I'm working.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to that point? Because I'm sure in the beginning you couldn't, and maybe, but you can't always be picky in the beginning, and then, like you can now. Like, how long did it take you of building that to get to the point where you're like, hey, this is the person I want to work with, and boom, this person's going to go over here?
It took us a good way. So that was 2013. We transitioned fully out of REO, or we had one little account then. I mean, it was a good 2 years. Yeah, a good 2 years to get to the point where you could say, okay, well, now Jen only works with who she wants to work with. You can go, you know, hit the gym in the morning if you want to, get the kid out of school early, whatever you want to do, still killing it. She's still doing 50, 60 deals a year, you know? Yeah. And that was, you know, it took us a couple of years. For me, like, I'm quick to replace myself in things. So it's like that as soon as if it's not something I enjoy, then that's what I'm looking for, is how do I get out of this? How do I replace myself with somebody as good or better than me?
Yeah.
And that was, every little piece is different depending on what it was.
Yeah, love it. So then kind of give us an idea of what I know you said you have 8 core agents or team. I mean, so give us an idea of what your structure is today in your team.
We've got 32 total agents now. And what happened originally, so when we were generating those leads, I would bring people on and feed them with the fire hose, and then, you know, you'd have a great interview with them. They would say they were driven. They would say this. Yeah, everybody's a badass, right? They come in and wouldn't perform, right? So, and those leads cost money, man. When you look at your total expenses, I always break it down on total expenses to leads generated, and, you know, on average, our total cost for lead, not by the lead source, but it's like $70 a lead, $75 a lead. And if I just fed you with a fire hose 100 leads and you don't turn any of those, or you don't see the value in what we're providing, and you walk away, and I just lost a ton of money. So once we saw that happen a few times, I said, okay, we got to shift things. I can't give people a shit ton of leads right when they walk in the door. You know, they've got to prove something to us. They got to hit some benchmarks now. And how do we do that? So the idea was, well, I don't want to upset this core that we have. I don't want to take anything away from them.
Which is your 8.
My 8, my core 8. So we call that, you know, that's like the big leagues. And then I said, okay, now let's bring on some agents, the ones that fit us culturally, first and foremost, like-minded. They have a mindset for productivity. They're collaborative, and they're solutions-based, right? So these people, those are the 3 things that I always tell my recruiter. I'm like, they've got to be this, and nothing counterculture. Like, if you get any sense of counterculture, I don't want them. I don't care. We're not looking to get to, you know, 200 agents. I would if they all fit us culturally, but that's first and foremost. So then I said, okay, well, once we get these people in that fit us, they got to hit some benchmarks before they'll come on leads. And that's what we started doing, is saying you got to hit this so much production. A lot of it's lead indicators, those, you know, calls, dials, contacts, conversations, contracts written, this, that, appointments set. but it really comes down to production. At the end of the day, if you don't hit you're doing all those things and you're not hitting the production, we're not moving you up. And but that's when, that's what drives all these people. I think that's a good thing for our retention too, is that they see what these people, we've had 2 move up over the last 2 months, and just changes things for them, completely changes things for their family. So it constantly motivates those others to keep driving and keep working. And then you can see the talent, you can identify it pretty quickly. And that, it's been a good transition for us, and a way to grow. And what I always told, so when we tried to grow, the other thing was the core agents, they had this mindset of scarcity.
Yeah.
That
living bodies, it's less for me.
Less for me, right? But I always tell them, like, well, someday you're going to want to grow. You're going to want to do what I do. How do you expand? Well, and how do you grow? You're going to hit your capacity, Jen. You're going to hit your capacity, Tiffany. Like, at some point, you can only do so many deals a year. The only way you grow is through people. So you've got to put people under you. And what better? Where do you start? Where can you start to look for those people? Well, right here on our team, there's people that can build you up. If there's that person that is not a savage and a killer and is going to be doing, 100 deals a year like Tiff is, then where can she complement Tiffany? Where can this person complement Tiffany? Who can we get in here that complements her? And that's when their mind shifted a little bit. And they said, okay, well, yeah, I like that, like they too, these top producers, I mean, at some point, dude, you don't want to be driving around people in a car. You want to go to your kid's soccer game, and they're sacrificing all that now, because they can see that there is a vision for the future, and that's what, Jen and I and the other leadership on the team really tries to paint for them, is like, what's the next step? It's not, hey guys, yeah, once you hit that, I mean, there's no room for growth. Once you're capped out on your production, you've hit so many sales, you got to go away and build your own team. Like, I'm training my competition. Screw that, man. There's got to be a way to have a vision for the next step and the next piece of growth for them, where it isn't just developing your competition, they leave, and then all of a sudden, yeah, they have all your the stuff that you taught them,
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude, and I mean, if you look at the most successful team leaders out there, I mean, they've all kind of went to a similar approach with some type of a progressive split model. Yeah. They're allowing teams under the team, which in my opinion, if you're about growth, is the only way that you can really evolve, right? When they do that, do they still, like, what does branding look like for that though?
Branding doesn't change. I mean, I'm not, I don't care exactly how it looks, although they still have to use a lot in team tag, But if you want to go create your own brand under that, I mean, then you're going to have a whole lot of logos on here. But I'm not really, it doesn't matter to me that much. I want to keep our brand associated with it. But, if they want to go out and create their own, logo and their own little marketing pieces, that's all fine, as long as it gets approved by me,
Like right now, Jason, nobody works harder.
Yeah, but I mean, like slogans, taglines, all this cool stuff. Like, yeah, I think it's fun, man. That's part of the fun of it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, love it. Like, so that the non-core, I don't know, 25 or whatever that number is, what do they get? I mean, is it just, okay, they get everything essentially on the team outside of leads, and then once they prove themselves, so what do they get, kind of, just to give everybody an idea, and then what are you looking for, like those 2 that you just brought on the last few months? Like, how did they prove themselves? I know you kind of talked about some key indicators, but like, what kind of are some specifications where hey, this person's a rock star and they need to be in this department?
Yeah, so to be on our elite team or the core team, you have to be closing a minimum of 48 transactions a year. So what does that look like? Well, they're on leads, right? To stay on there, you got to be closing 48. To get to that, you got to be closing 2 a month on your own. So it's usually about a 90 to 120 day period. At least they have to be on the team before we can gauge their production, this, that. But so lead indicators that I'm looking at, just like I talked about, like for those 2 that came up, they just came in, man, and killed it in the first 90 days. I mean, 8, 10 closings.
They were in the office every day, making their phone calls, making those follow-ups, just showing initiative too, as far as like volunteering, first ones to volunteer for open houses, things
hustling,
like that.
you know, it's hustling, and then it's also showing in the numbers. But we've got plenty other ones that hustle. The numbers just aren't there yet. But if they're tracking it correctly too, we can get down to why they're not doing the production, you know. And that's it. Like if you're making a ton of calls, you're getting a ton of contacts and no appointments, well, then it's probably a scripting issue. You know, if you're making a bunch of appointments, then we got to work on your presentation, you know. So, that's how we've kind of broken down. That's the goal and how we get them to that next step. So,
another thing we're doing is we send out daily reminders to everybody as to for numbers, like how many
scoreboard.
Yeah, we have a scoreboard for everybody.
It's nothing. You got to keep it simple, right? So it is just those, so they know who made the most calls and who had the most contacts today. Yeah. And it goes out. That's I think that's one. And then we have a more elaborate scoreboard we go over. It's 4 disciplines of execution. Right. Yeah. Create that scoreboard. The one that's simple on a daily basis, our VA puts it together, and then our other admin in office sends it out. And then for our weekly meeting, we go over a more elaborate one, which goes over all the lead indicators, you know, how many emails, how many calls, how many contacts, all that stuff. And then who has the most escrows, who has the most closings year to date. And the funny thing is the ones that have hitting all these other things are the ones that are the producers, you know. Right. So the other people can see like, oh crap, okay, I do have to make 47 dials a day, you know, to get there. So I think a lot of people don't understand what it takes to be a top producer in the industry, and some people are pretty amazed at what you have to do to close 50 deals a year. You know?
Yeah, it's like you want to close a house a week, dude. You got to be having 100 conversations a week.
Yeah,
it's just what it boils down to, right? Yeah. So that's gonna take you 500 to 1,000 dials, depending on your frequency. So, love it. So, and then I've always found it to be, you know, a lot of team leaders are kind of freaked out about transparency. You know, being transparent about the numbers and where these things are at. And it sounds like you guys are pretty transparent. I mean, do you feel that helps a lot with your culture of and how transparent are you too? Like, are you sharing like, hey, here's what our true expenses are, things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, we show. Yeah, I show everything. Like our, you know, they wouldn't want to sit down and go through my P&L, I don't think. But yeah, here's our total expenses year to date. Here's the total leads generated. I show them that because, and you know, putting a dollar amount into the leads is important because then if I send you something and you know it cost me $75 overall to generate that, it's like you just took $75 out of my pocket if you decide not to call them back, you know? Like I want to tie something to that. And transparency for us, it's just it's who I am. It's who we are. You know, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not, we're always 100% honest, you know? And I think that's what we look for in the other people. And that's the kind of people that we have around us.
And I think that comes through in our team too. Everybody in our team is always willing to share what's working for them with everybody. With the core group, along with the blockbuster team, the minor league team, everyone's always willing to share. Or like we have an all staff email. You know, everyone's, hey, did you see this? Did you check this out? This really worked for me, or this didn't work for me. So it comes across throughout the team too.
Yep, love it. Is there any point like with that? I mean, I get on the core team or the major league, or whatever you want to classify it as. Given a cut, you know, that's like, hey, if the ROI is not there, you know, sorry, you're not producing. Like I get that, but on the minors, is outside of like a cultural conflict. Like let's say somebody is part time, you know, right, and maybe you don't hire part time. I don't know, but is there a point where you'll give them like you'll cut them if based on production or anything, or is it all just kind of hey, only if you have a conflict with their culture?
I don't think we really hire part-time though. We set the standards straight from the get-go. Say this is what we expect.
Yeah, so that's it. Like, you know, what's your production standard on your team? Well, it's whatever you're allowing, right? Yeah. So if you have agents that aren't doing any, I look at production, but it's really tough to break it down on a monthly basis necessarily. Like if you didn't close any this month and you had 4 in escrow, you know, well, okay, I get it. You know, sometimes you're in that cyclical nature just like everybody else. Let's get you out of that. How are we going to do that? So yeah, that's we do have standards, but ultimately the only reason we really let somebody go is for culturally. Like if you do something that's counterculture, if you're not working out of abundance, then get the hell out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we recently just switched in the last year, bringing on, like before it was only full-time agents.
Yeah.
And at one point, dude, like we had a 36 a year, you know, per agent minimum. And it's like, I mean, I fired agents that had good production, but hit me at 36. That now today I'm like, hey, will you rejoin my team? But you know, we transitioned, and you know, the reason I asked that is because I'm always kind of going back and forth, because we've also, you know, I mean, we've had, you always get those, it's case by case, but some of those that you took the risk on, they were in a job full time, doing this part time, but you were able to help them with that transition, and they become a top producer, you know, right? But then now I look at the number of agents compared to the production we're doing, our average agent production on the team, and I mean, it's scary to see that, you know, it's kind of insane. So all right, so then with the major team, because I know you're talking about giving them leads, but then you guys also have ISAs, all of that stuff. So I mean, you kind of the ISAs maybe like listing specific, and the agents are responsible for working their own their buyer leads, or the ISAs work the leads, so these people in the majors are really getting appointments, not leads. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the minor league team, right, AAA, they don't get the benefit of the ISA necessarily. The elite team does. So what we'll do is when a lead comes in, and I'll talk in Boomtown terms, but I think everybody's kind of familiar with that. Like, as a new lead comes in, the agent has the first opportunity to call them. Like, I want the first person to contact them to hopefully be the agent. But it is, you know, speed to lead is so crucial. So if they're not reaching out to them within the first 2 to 5 minutes, the ISA is jumping on that right away. And then depending on where it goes from there is whose bucket it falls into. So our ISAs live in the new that aren't being immediately called, or qualify, which means that, you know, this is somebody we haven't had a good conversation with. We need to really qualify whether they're a real buyer or seller. And then they also live in archive. So I expect our agents to jump on new leads and to daily call nurtures, hots, and watches. And that's what, and the ISAs support them in that also. So we have standards like how long is it before you, so if you have 150 leads in your nurture category, when was the last time you contacted them? In our, you know, the CRM, you can sort by that. So if you haven't contacted a nurture in the last 2 weeks, then there's the possibility that lead could get it reassigned. And the ISA jumps in at that point. If it's 30 days, if it's 60 days, the ISA is jumping in. So he's auditing all that stuff. He's making sure that the nurtures are getting followed up with. He's making sure that the watches are getting followed up with, and definitely the hots. We never have a problem with hots. Hots is somebody that's actively looking to purchase or purchasing within the next 30 days or listing. But he's going through there and sorting their databases and auditing them and making sure. And then we call it the laws of the pipeline. Like, you've got to abide by these laws, or the risk is you're going to lose the lead. And all of our agents are great about keeping that up. And sometimes there is some that, you know, there's always or sometimes there's extenuating circumstance. Like, you go in, I'll call them first. I'm like, hey, you haven't touched this lead in 45 days. I don't just pull stuff. It's not. I think that's bad for culture too. Yeah. But I'll call them like, hey, what's going on with this guy? Like, oh, I should have moved him over to watch. This is what's going on. I'm like, okay, we'll update the notes. And 90% of the time, everything's gold. Everything's perfect. But, there's the times where you just got to call and remind them. But yeah, the ISAs are we don't do a lot of outbound prospecting. It's more lead coordination. But certain days we do have, and that's where we have the high turnover too, is in the prospecting ISAs. The ones that are out there, it's a ton of dials, it's tougher conversations, it's setting appointments. So we're always turning that, but the lead coordinators positions are a lot easier to retain. So, but yeah, we are doing all those other prospecting things.
Yeah. So then when it comes to the with the ISAs and the because I know you talked about hitting an NOD list, so you do have. I mean, so kind of explain that as far as we have these. So it sounds like you have two different departments with your ISAs.
Yeah, so it's two different personality types. I think when you talk about a lead coordinator and you talk about when I say lead coordinator, I mean that's inbound marketing leads. Outbound is completely different than personality, than somebody that's nurturing.
A lot of F-offs.
Yeah, exactly. I need a high D, high I, a sales-oriented person to be setting those appointments. The nurtures that are being passed off to agents, the inbound stuff is a lot easier to convert. And you have to have a high I. You have to have a good, strong D, but it's steady, consistent. So we look for IS combo, a little bit of a D so they can close. But yeah, that's what. So it's high turnover, and plus in the prospecting thing, it's kind of more of a stepping stone position too, where I see them. They always want to move up to being an agent really quick.
Yeah.
Where that ISC, they're cautious. They can't imagine going out and living commission based. Oh, crap, I can't do that. Yeah, no, this is good. I'm good here. Like our top lead coordinator, makes $65,000-$70,000 a year. That's a pretty damn good living, you know, and you're cranking out, a few hundred dials a day. So.
Yep. Love it. Where do you guys see yourself taking this, dude? I mean, you guys, I don't know how long it's been since we last talked, but you've exploded this thing. I mean, I may not see you for a couple years at a time, so it looks like it. I know it doesn't always feel like it explodes.
Yeah.
But do you guys kind of have a overall vision of? I know you said earlier not taking it 200 agents, but
well, here's the thing: like growth is the vision, always should be. 100% believe in that, and I don't know where it stops. I do have the 1-3-5 year vision, and the one that I had created last year is completely different than the one I created this year. Like, we keep going past what that expectation is, or, I don't exactly know when we stop. All I can tell you is we'll always be growing. And as long as I have value to add to people, I'm going to continue to. And that's what we look at. Like, we're going to add people to the team. We're going to continue to sell more houses, hopefully, and have other joint ventures and build our business and build our legacy. So
so then as far as you, Jen, with because you're still very active in production, right? So do you see a transition for yourself at some point where you're wanting to get less and less out of production and more into a different type of a role within the team, or do you really enjoy the production side?
I enjoy the production side. I enjoy I feel that people are coming to me for a reason, because they trust us, they trust me, and I appreciate that. And I don't see myself really going too far out of production, but I'm constantly doing other things for the team and stuff.
She's like I don't know what the term is, but like outreach. A lot of the charity stuff we do, events to client events to team events. Always coming up with something nice, like community-based stuff. I'm like, oh wow, I'm glad we have her, because I would never. I'm bad at that stuff.
Like, we're actually sponsoring a 5K this Sunday. I don't know when this is going to air, but the proceeds go to local veterans, and we coordinated with Glendale Fire for that. So just doing things like that.
We're doing, what else is that? So we do blood drives all the time. We're doing a little cool thing called Battle of the Neighborhoods, right? So we did a marketing piece based around Glendale versus Peoria, right?
Okay, yeah.
So which one's appreciated more, which one has better sales, which one's a better place to live, and then you're farming to both of these, social media to to everywhere, blasting out every different way you can. And the goal is to do like a tug of war contest at like a school in one of the areas, between like a Glendale Fire Department and a Peoria Fire Department, and then do all the filming, like, so cool stuff like that, fun things, like that falls on Jen, and then she's got to sell still 50 to 60 houses. And we got 2 little boys, so
love it, dude. So then because in addition to your real estate company, I know you guys also flip a lot of property. You still got your partnerships in the restaurant side, and having a young family, right? So I hate the word balance, because it just doesn't seem like it exists, right?
What's that?
Right. But then the other thing too is then you guys find time to take great care of your health, and you guys are both very active and always working out, and so like how do you structure it to make sure that you're not dropping one of these balls? I know it's not always a perfect world, but how do you make sure that, hey, like, we're growing this epic business, but my health isn't getting neglected, or my kids aren't getting neglected, or even your marriage, right?
Speaking of which, when was their last date? Finding outside help.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, you know, we have somebody that comes in and helps us prepare meals and do some things around the house.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things that we did to take some of those burdens off Jen too, and off myself. Like, you know, eating healthy is tough to do in today's world. Like, we went probably it's the best money I spend all week. Well, there's a lot of staff members too that are great for us, but it's freaking amazing. It's like $15 an hour. We found her off care.com. She comes in, she does our grocery shopping, she does our meal prep, she comes into our house, does all this, dry cleaning, laundry, this, that, like, and that was something I learned at like a Darren Hardy event, you know, like, get these things off your plate, man. What, like, Jen, if I told you never had to do laundry again and all you had to do was sell 2 more houses this year, what would you think? Right? Like,
I was against it at first because I'm the mom. I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff. Yep. This is my responsibility outside of work too. And, you know, he really pointed it out one evening after dinner and getting the little one down, the older one, you know, wanted to play a game. And I was like, I can't right now, dude. I got to, you know, get laundry put away and got to do this, got to do that. And he just kind of went like, see?
Totally,
You know, outsourcing some of these responsibilities has been huge and help keep us somewhat balanced.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, we used to own a Remax brokerage, and, you know, when I was looking at what businesses we want to do, like, you know, like I said, driving people around in the car, I got to love doing it or it's got to make me money. I think, you know, you've heard other people say that, but man, the brokerage, I didn't love doing it, and it definitely didn't make us money, right? So it was one of those like, what else do we want to do, you know? And then like just the little things, you know, you look at a lot of things like that. Like, I want to go to my, you know, kid's soccer game or be able not to be on my laptop at 9:00 at night, you know. I want to be able to read that book to them, you know? So it's prioritizing is a lot of it. Routine. I think that's what, you know, people get into real estate and they, you know, like, you get to choose any hours you want. I'm like, yeah, I can choose any 70 or 80 hours a week you want to work, right? Like, but you got to have a routine, man. You got to be, you know,
willing to go nonstop right now, though, too. Yeah. You know, like, our weekend, I mean, is booked out by the hour. Yeah. You know, and people don't realize, like, you don't get to stop. But I mean, and we're doing some of these things though too are things that we enjoy, you know, and don't get me wrong, you know, CrossFit's in there at 9 a.m. on Saturday, and then from there we go here at 11 and this and that, but just I see it as we're going nonstop right now to get, there's a means to an end, and someday we'll be able to, I guess, relax.
Yeah, I mean,
it takes, but I mean, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, though, because it seems like as human beings, we always kind of want what we don't have in the moment, right? Yeah. Do you ever like get that day or that vacation where you do relax and you're just so damn bored out of your mind that you're just like?
Well, that's the thing. It takes us through. We're going to St. Thomas in June, and it'll take me a good 3 days to actually be comfortable with being relaxed, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and a few cocktails too. Yeah, like, it's kind of like there's like that's the only way. You know, it is tough to shut it off, and you know that's even, you know, trying to bring it down on a daily basis too. Is, you know, we do that through a lot of gratitude. You know, Jen's a very positive, like, grateful person, and she's kind of instilled that in me, you know, since we've been married, like just making sure that you appreciate everything around you. And so now, like, my morning is, I can't work, like I was saying, I can't work out in the morning. My mind's going, I got to get up and get some of the business stuff done. And then once the kids are off to school, Jen's taking them, then I kind of sit down and I reflect, you know, I might do some reading. I tried meditation for like a year. Dude, I can't shut it off. Like, it's not like guided meditation. Don't think for, you know, 10 minutes. I'm like, screw that. I can't do it. Let's at least be, you know, let's be aware of what we're thinking about. Let's, you know, find things that we're grateful for, visioning out to what goals I want to accomplish and actually seeing them accomplish, you know, 6, 12 months down the line, to just, you know, breathing and like just simple shit like that, you know?
Yep. So then, having partnerships is hard enough in its own, and then when you're husband and wife, right, then it brings a different complexity to it. And I think, I mean, well, I don't think, I mean, the real estate space, there's a lot of husband and wives that, you know, want to team up, right? And I think it can be brilliant because typically, like, our mate that we're attracted to is the opposite. They balance us,
Yes,
you know, right?
for
So
sure.
it can make brilliant partnerships because you never want to partner with somebody that's you know, right? But what do you guys do, or what kind of suggestions would you give to those that are watching and listening that are maybe wanting to partner with their spouse, you know, to make it successful? Because I know it can't be easy, you know, right? But what are some of the things that you guys do to make it successful in the business and then outside the business?
Well, a lot of times we're actually working on our own things. You know, he doesn't know what's going on with my clients sometimes, or, you know, for the most part, unless I need him, you know, but having our own, I don't know, our own time, our own things
Yeah, I
going
mean,
on.
you definitely have to have your things that, you know, that you own, you know, things that you're working on that there's no involvement. But I think for me, with the high D and then, you know, she's a high I, I have to understand how we try to understand how to communicate best with each other. I mean, that's really, like, instead of just saying, no, like, this, you know, this offer, this is what you need to do this, do that, you know, this is the marketing plan, you know, approaching her in the way that she wants to be talked to. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like the 5 love languages. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, I was getting there in a way. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's what is her language, right? So, yeah, you know, we've read that book a couple times. So, yeah, and that's what you got to do. I mean, that's the only way it works, is just speaking that language and making sure that you're always aware of it.
And supporting each other in how you are.
Yeah.
Like, he's supportive in the sense that he knows that, because I'm out there in the community, doing a lot of different things, doing a lot of different events, meeting a lot of different people, and that's how I'm constantly building our sphere. And he respects that and sees it. Like, she's out there working it. Like, even though I might not be working to some people, I'm out there creating connections for us, and he's constantly supporting me in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, dude. Sunday, when I've got we have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, right? Like, and she's either showing houses or some sort of charity event, you know. And it's not every weekend, but it is, dude. Like, you know, 2 little boys all day long I'm like, maybe I'll go do these showings today.
Yeah, it's hard, dude.
It's tough, man.
People are always like, "Oh, did you have a good weekend?" And it's like, dude, I gotta go to work to get a break from my weekends, man.
Yeah.
Man, it's gnarly, dude. So love it. And then Bobby, I don't know if we're getting any comments or anything that you want to hit. Okay, cool. So then, knowing, like, okay, with what happened in the REO market, and then knowing what you guys know now, because it's never like an if these markets are going to transition. It's just a matter of when, right? Like, I know I talked to my NOD list guy last night, and he's like, there's 10,000 30-day late NODs right now in just Maricopa County, you know, right?
Nice.
Like, it's, and who knows? I'm not the chicken little sky's falling, but the reality is it always repeats. So knowing everything you know now, when that transition happens again, like, what do you, and I don't know if you've thought about this a lot, or maybe you do.
All the time,
yeah.
yeah.
So, like, what do you, you know, like, what do you kind of plan to do differently, so then you don't make some of those same mistakes that you've made in the past with this stuff?
I think, you know, I don't know where I've heard it before, but, you know, the first down market, you probably lose money. The second one, hopefully you learn something. I know this next one, dude, we're going to get rich. Like, we're going to be bullish. I mean, we're going to go out there and buy properties. We're going to go, you know, we were so at the forefront of what was going on, you know, seeing so many assets come in, doing the valuations on them and seeing where the market was going, that that we knew when the bottom was. We only bought 3 houses though, right? Like, next time I'm going to buy 300, you know, and now we have the means and the opportunity to do that. So that's why I tell everyone, like, the next downturn or whatever the next thing is, like, we'll adapt and we'll make way more money than we did the last time. So I'm actually kind of excited for it. If it does come.
Yeah, it's me. My first broker, mentor in the business, told me, and it didn't make sense at the time, but he's like, great agents will make way more money in bad markets than in good markets, right? So But then when it comes to your actual, outside of acquiring a bunch of property, yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's cool. Like, the first time that first BPO actually, or that MMR increases, you're like, boom, that, so you do get a lot of great intel before everybody else does. But when it comes to your business, like I know I regret, I just went on, when you're getting 80 properties a month, plus listing short sales, we didn't even think about leveraging those properties, doing open houses, building up that buyer business, but growing that team. And I'm like, shit, man, I could have had 200 buyers agents.
So we'd have to build a whole nother business or team or another.
I think it's there, right? We got the team to support it. Now, it's not one business. That's the other thing I always try to get people away from. Like, you got businesses within a business. Yeah. And what is that? So, I mean, an REO division now that's supported by this massive team, dude. Yeah, I mean, you hit on it. That's like, now we'll be able to actually capture buyers.
Call buyers back.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't want to put signs up half the time.
Yeah.
But now I think we understand that. We know how to convert these leads and actually kind of would appreciate them, So, yeah, I would definitely do that different, but not just on the acquisition side, like you're saying, but yeah, also on maximizing and keeping that database, man. I mean, on every Fannie Mae contract, the buyer, I know they weren't our clients, but how many of those agents were really going to follow up with them? Right. On the back page, they had to put their name, email address, phone number, and it takes everything for me not to go back to those 3,000 closings and actually pull that information out and start farming and marketing to them,
Yep, 100%, man. So then, and I don't know if you guys want to kind of each answer this separately to kind of get your own take on it, but so often as entrepreneurs, I mean, of course we're talking about our successes and people see those successes, which is amazing, but it's not always the successes that have defined us to the successful people we are. It's those, I hate the word failure, because failure turns into our greatest learning moments that really define us to the people that we are. But what would you say, like, one of the biggest, or maybe there's a couple of them, learning experiences that you've had to go through that have really defined you each to the successful entrepreneurs you are today?
Transparency was probably mine. Like, I lost a big, like $1 million REO account by not being transparent with what I was doing. It was that time when, I'll just kind of run you through the quick scenario. Freddie Mac didn't allow for family members to work on the houses for you, the preservation maintenance of them. I ran out of money. There was no contractors that would wait to get paid, right? My dad would, right? Like, so, my business partner at the time, Sky Gibson, when Freddie Mac caught wind of that, it's one strike, you're out, right? And we'd been with him for 6 years, 7 years, or no, it wasn't that long. It was like 3-4 years. And they, no warning, anything, just cut us off. Yeah. And if I'd been transparent with Scott, I think we could have found other opportunities. We could have found other ways but I didn't go, and I was like, I can't tell him because I don't want, he's out of money, I'm out of money, but we could have gone and raised the capital somewhere, somehow, that was the thing. That was probably my biggest, shake my head, I'm like, God, why the hell did I do that? It was stupid. I should have brought him in and we should have worked together on it. And that's kind of what's changed me and my collaborative nature and transparency within the business too.
Yeah, because you look at a situation like that, it's like, not that you're doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I didn't take one kickback from my dad. Put my hand on.
It's like, hey, man, my clients are getting taken care of. We're getting it done. Yeah. The properties are being taken care of. And we got to figure this out. Yeah. And and people that aren't in that space, or at least in that space at that time, before the caps and before the banks started taking care of a lot of this stuff, I don't think understand like how just gnarly and insane that was. Yeah. You couldn't even process a thought, dude.
No. Yeah, I mean,
the pressure just from all ends too, like from all the asset managers, and I mean, just to get it, get
it cleaned up, get it done. Yeah, I mean,
I can.
We had to pay out of pocket, not just for utilities at that time. It was you're paying out of pocket for the cleanup, you're paying out of pocket for any plumbing links, you're paying out of pocket for this, and then these banks that were 120 days behind, 6 months behind. You hope that you submit it correctly to get reimbursed. Yeah.
I remember we had one dude that by the time the final utility bill would come, like the water bill in the mail, we already surpassed our date. So we literally had to have an assistant daily that would just go down and like collect them from the city department. Because we couldn't even wait for them to come in the mail. because then the banks would keep our money.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like posting it to them, like, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't care.
And they all had different systems.
Yeah, so you got to learn all that.
On how to submit each one,
Yeah, awesome. So what would you say yours is, Jen?
Learning how to better communicate with clients, treating each person as reminding myself that each person doesn't buy or sell a house very often. And, oftentimes because we do it so often, we're just throwing information out at them or using terms and things and that they don't understand. Really learning that my clients each one of them actually needs their hands held throughout the entire process. And just because they're, a close friend or someone that I assume, you can never assume that they understand what you're talking about. You have to be patient with each individual and really go through everything, even though it's redundant to you. Because I've caught myself sometimes just going through the motions and having to take a step back and be like, I should have done that better. I should have explained something better or not just assume that they knew what I was talking about.
Yeah. I've done that. Final hour, they get the settlement statement and they're like, "Oh, dude, is this all I'm getting back? What's going on here?" I'm like, "Oh, we didn't go over a net sheet."
Yeah.
I'm like, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that. My bad.
Yeah, I get asked in my boot camp training all the time of like, because we've learned to treat our buyer consultation just like a listing presentation, right? Mm-hmm. So just that deep education, like, well, even if it's a repeat client, I'm like, yeah, your average person buys every 5 years. Like, try to remember what the hell you had for lunch last Tuesday. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, our minds can't remember this stuff, and I couldn't agree more, man.
Or sometimes, like, someone that was close to me thinking they were my friend and it was no big deal and we were just kind of going through the motions and I was like, shit, I gave them a bad experience. Or, not a bad, but I could have made it a better experience rather, and just trying to remember that.
Yeah, love it. So we have a lot of listeners. I think I saw the other day on YouTube, we're like in 80 countries right now.
Oh, wow.
It's just kind of crazy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it kind of goes out there. But we get about 100,000 downloads a month on the podcast now, and then we got a huge following here in Arizona. So if anybody that's maybe, you guys got an amazing, epic team, culture, you're expanding, you're growing. If someone wants to reach out to you, just maybe to say thanks for the podcast or have some questions, or maybe they're like really interested on joining you guys' amazing team and getting information about like what's the best place to go learn more about that?
Well, to our team site, which is lawtonteam.com. You can always email me directly too. It's george@lawtonteam.com, jennifer@lawtonteam.com. So, but to learn more about the team, that's the place to go. We've got some good little videos on there about what we do differently. That would be where I would start.
Yep. Awesome. So, I started this podcast 2 years ago because it's like, there's a lot of great information out there, but holy crap, there's a lot of shitty information, right? And I did the podcast for two reasons. One, I wanted to give back to an industry that's changed my life, and I know it's changed your guys' lives. But then two, on a selfish standpoint, and this is my self-development, I get to pick brilliant minds like yours, on a daily basis, and it allows me to grow and expand, right? So, but with that being said, those that are here watching and listening right now are here because they want to go out there and create amazing, epic lives for themselves and their families. So do you have any last words of advice or inspiration that you'd like to leave them with so they can do exactly that?
Yeah, it is, I touched on it before, but it's not all sexy, man. Like, it's not, like, it is the grind, it is the routine, and stick with it. If this is your passion, if this is what you want to do, it takes time, it takes patience. A lot of the younger people that I'm seeing come into the market, and millennials, they say entitlement. It's not entitlement, I don't think, man. It's impatience. Like, they think that they should be, at $100,000 in 3 months. That's what they feel. And I'm like, you still got to grind it out, man. You still got to put in the work to get the reward. So that would be my little piece.
Yeah. Be ready to work your ass off.
Yeah.
Our top agents, they're going nonstop.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Even on vacations,
We try to coach that. Like, a lot of my team, the top tier, I'm not coaching on, hey man, you gotta make your dials today. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. It's, how do we get a balance, man? How do you how do you still get all, what is all this for? How do you sit back and still enjoy it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm coaching a lot of. So.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. Couldn't agree more, man. Yeah. And I don't know anybody that's making 6 figures plus that doesn't work their ass off.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, it's like, I mean, I got buddies that are, top surgeons that are, making maybe $500,000 that, dude, I mean, they go 3 days straight. I mean, they're having to take speed, right? Just to, and then you get an agent that bitches about working 16-hour days and is making more than top surgeons.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's
a great industry, man. Where else can you go? Low barrier of entry, Well, I forget who was saying, I heard it the other day, the real estate license is the second most awarded license in Arizona next to a driver's license, right? Yeah. There's such a low barrier of entry, but man, the opportunity, there's no ceiling on this.
Yeah.
There's no ceiling. You can do whatever you want, man. If you want to make $1 million a year, all right, let's sit down. I'll show you how we can do that. We'll pencil it out,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's insane, man. It's a blessing, and the low barrier entry is a curse, kind of at times too. It's like I had a guy on the podcast the other day, and he said, the dude that cuts my hair, the girl cuts my hair, went through 1,000 hours of schooling to know how to give me a $20 haircut. Yep. Because we go through 40 to help people buy and sell the biggest asset of their life.
Well, that's what I don't think people understand the damage they can do selling. Like an uneducated agent can do so much damage. Like a bad haircut, man, that'll grow out in 2 weeks. Right? Yeah, exactly. Like you screw somebody up on a real estate purchase, they don't disclose something properly, the damage you can do is pretty significant, man.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And that's been the brilliance of teams, right, coming up, because it's like, I don't know, if a new agent doesn't join a team, dude, it's Russian roulette, man. I'm just like, what the hell are you thinking?
Well, and that's what a lot of people that come to me that are thinking about joining the team, they're like, well, what's in it for me? I'm like, you don't understand all the training and support and everything that we're going to be giving you that you need. Yeah. You're going to go out there and try. I think you can do it on your own for a little bit, and
those are the ones I like too. Get kicked in the teeth a little bit, just enough to understand. Hey, this is I mean, you can't. The individual agent can't compete with the team now. They can't, man. There's no way. With all I'd have to do, and we don't do feature dumps or anything like that, but all I'd have to do is sit down and show them the back end of one segment of our business and the systems and the checklist for checklists that we have. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense, right? I can't do that. I can't do it on my own, And that's what I think. That's where we're at now in this market. The individual agent is severely behind, and those are the ones that worry me about. It's not you. It's it's not Jason Mitchell's about capturing market share. It's the one that's getting 1 or 2 listings and still cutting hair. What I mean? Like those are the ones that worry me. But yeah, I mean, it's all. I think the industry in general it's a great place to be. So many people want to be here. You can make so much dang money, but know what you're doing first too, and just join a team too.
Yep, 100%. Couldn't agree more. All right, you guys, I know we end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly the start of delusion today. Information is no longer power. It's taking that information and taking massive action on it that creates power inside your world. So George and Jennifer shared so many amazing pieces of information with you guys. They take something that you learn, take immediate action on it, so you can go out there and create that life you want and deserve. And thank you guys so much for watching. And George and Jennifer, I know how busy you guys are, so it's been a massive honor to have you here in the studio. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having us, dude.
Yep, 100%. All right, you guys, see you next time. Peace out.
Later.